Hi everyone, how are you doing? So glad to have you here today. I'm Karina and I'm glad to be here with Porcelli. Hey Porcelli, how you are?
Hi, Karina. I'm great and great to be here back. Missed a couple of lives. And yes, be here with this community and presenting great content. It's awesome.
Indeed. And today we are going to have a different perspective on the development cycle of business processes. Because so far we've spoken about the tooling, like the editors itself, or about how to model a business process. What is a business process? When to use business processes? But we've never spoken about the actual experience of the developer. So how can they see the process that they are developing during the development in their machine, right, Porcelli?
Absolutely, yes. So as we've been displaying and showing in the key lives, we have the editors in VS Code in .NET in several environments. But now we are looking to the developer perspective that we know, and we already presented that you have the VS Code extensions that you can do. But what we can do more with that? VS Code extensions and how, especially using Quarkus, how we can get and boost the productivity of the developers. And that's what we will see today.
With Paulo Martins. Could you tell a little bit about Paulo to us?
Yeah, Paulo has joined us for many, many years. He's a seasoned engineer. He's actually a senior engineer in part of the key group. And he's developing. Recently, he's been focused on these developer tools for the runtime perspective. He also presented here in the past. I think with the desktop, some tools that we built in the past, but now he present us some these developer tools for productivity. So come on, Paulo.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Paulo.
Hey, Paulo, it's great to have you here today with us. Could you, I already have your screen here. I will share it in a moment. So what can people expect from your talk today?
So today I'm going to talk a little more focused on the developer experience during testing and development of business process only for the developer, and how we are releasing a new tool that the main goal is to improve the developer experience by making it more efficient with less boilerplate to deal with.
Ooh, so without further ado, let's get started. I will share your screen up right now. And as usual, folks, just let us know if you have any questions. We can interrupt Paulo at any moment in the presentation. Those who are here with us for a time now, they already know we interrupt people all the time. So not we, but mostly me, right, Porcelli? You're more polite, but
not that much.
Okay, so Paulo, you can get started. Go for it.
Thanks. So hello again, everyone. Today I'm gonna introduce you to our new released runtime tools Quarkus extension, and I'm gonna talk a little about how it can make the development more efficient by reducing the amount of external services that we need to run to be able to test our business process with user tasks and asynchronous jobs locally. Okay. So the topics I'm gonna talk about here today, first is the goal of the extension, how to install it, which is very easy, as we will see in a few minutes. I will also do a small demonstration with a real business process on all the features that we have available so far in the latest release. And I'm gonna finish talking a little about the next steps, the features we are working on right now, and we will make available in the next releases in a few weeks. So first of all, about the goal of the extension, as I said, is to make the development experience much more efficient by reducing the amount of external services that the developer has to worry about when running the consoles, the runtime consoles locally in their machine. So to illustrate this a little bit, I made this slide which shows us first, before the extension, the amount of services that we need to manually run locally, which was very similar to what you would have in a production environment. Those here are listed as management console, the test console, the data index service, the job service, the Kafka, the single sign-on, and this made testing a little more difficult during development because it was a lot of stuff to run locally. Okay, so with this first release, we are starting to reduce this amount of services that you need to run. So currently, in the release that I'll show today, we still need to run the data index, the job service, and the Kafka to make sure the extension is working properly. But we are already working to eliminate all these external services apart from the extension. So we are embedding everything you need to test your process locally inside the extension. So in the future, we won't need to run anything apart from your own Quarkus application with the extension, the runtime tools extension that I'll show today as a dependency. So let's take a look on how to start using it. How do I install it in my application? And to do that, there are only two small steps. The first one is to add a Maven dependency to your pom.xml in your project. Here I show you the group ID and the artifact ID with the latest releases that we have in our Maven artifact. And then the second thing you need to do is to configure a set of properties in the application.properties file of your project that resides inside the source main resource folder. So let's talk a little about these properties. The first one is the data index service URL. So as I mentioned before, we're still needing the data index to be run apart from your application. So for the extension to know where to get its data, we need to pass this property with the URL where the data index is going to run. And this will be eliminated in the future. And the second set of properties are the mocked users and groups that we will use in the extension to manage user tasks. So you can define in this first property a set of users separated by comma, and then you will be able to impersonate them in the UI, as I will show in a few instances. And those other properties follow this format that we have here with the username that you're setting in the middle here, and you can specify the security groups of which the user belongs to. And this eliminates the necessity of a single sign-on running apart from your application and makes testing also much easier without the need to log off and log in again to test different users. So now that we know how to install, what's the purpose, let's do a little demonstration of all the features that we have available with a small example project. So let me go here to my VS Code. I think you can see it properly with this font size. So in this project, we have two relevant files that I wanted to show. First is the candidate module. So this example consists in a hiring process of a company of a candidate for a certain job. So this module represents this candidate and has these four fields. And then if we go here to the hiring.bpmn process, we can see graphically all the process. Just out of curiosity, for those who don't know, I'm using Visual Studio Code here, and I'm able to open this process with this interface thanks to the extension, the tooling extension that we have released, and we already talked about a few lives ago. So if you're interested and want to install to try it, you just have to go to the VS Code store and search for the Kogito bundle extension in the marketplace, and it will make the BPMN, the DMN, and test scenario editors available to you inside VS Code. So that's very cool as well. So now going back to the process, here is the hiring process that we have today. And it's very simple. After it starts, it receives as an input the candidate information that I showed you before here on this class. And then the first thing that it waits for is the HR interview to be completed, which is, this is a user task that requires the user JDO to execute it, okay? And then after it is completed, we have to wait for another user task, which is the technical interview of that candidate. And then after this is done, the process is completed. There is also a secondary path here. If the HR interview is not completed within 40 seconds, in this case, we will go to the secondary path and bypass it and going right to the IT interview. And this secondary path is what I will show you now in action. So we can take a look also at jobs and tasks and all the aspects we have covered in the runtime tools extension so far. So let me open here my browser. Here. So now what I'm running, as I mentioned before, are those three required external services, the data index, the job service, and Kafka in the background. And I also am running this example application, this example Quarkus application in development mode, which will make available to us the dev UI page. Here we can take a look. It's only available in the development mode, and we can see all the extensions that are available in this application. And as you can see here in the top right, we have the runtime tools extension, which I will talk about now. And we have those three items here that we have access to. Right now, in the current state, it's all empty. That's why we have 0 for the three of them.
Paulo, sorry to interrupt you,
yeah,
but
no
you mentioned about the setup. That is true. Today, you need to have some services running background, right? That you just mentioned. But we are working to remove those, and basically, this will automatically work without any service very soon, right?
Yes, absolutely. As I showed in this slide. Show again. Yeah, right here. We can see that in the currently we need these three services, but very soon we are embedding all the necessary services inside the extension, so the developer doesn't need to run anything apart their own application in development mode.
Great. So today you can take benefit to what you're just showing, but very soon we'll have no dependency. It'll be a very streamlined process to get this interface that you show us, right?
Yes, exactly. And yeah, and about that, this is the first release that we have for this extension, and this presentation is the first part of many that we will have to show you the new features that we are delivering each quarter of the year. And soon, in a few weeks, we'll have another presentation to show the features we are developing right now. So this is very cool.
We can disclose October 12th. We have another KIELive session that have more of these runtime tools, right?
Yes, exactly. My teammate Patty will be presenting it.
Perfect. Yeah. So thank you, Paulo, for clarification.
No problem. Okay, so going back here, I was saying about the runtime tools extension. We have access to these three interfaces. So I'll go ahead and enter the process instances. Let me go back. Okay, so here it's all empty right now because I haven't started any process instance yet. But just so we can take an overview of all the screens that are available in this extension, let's go ahead. So the process instance screen basically lists all the processes that are active at the moment in your runtime application, and we'll take a closer look after I start a new process. We also have a jobs screen that will list all the active jobs at any given time. And even if you want to take a look at the old jobs that already have been ran or canceled, you can just change the filter and you can pretty much see it all. And we also have the task screen, which is pretty similar to the others. You can see all the tasks that are available for the user. And the only difference is that in this top right corner here, we have a drop down that will list all the mocked users that you defined in your application.properties file, as I mentioned before during the installation. So for now, we don't have any tasks, but it's very easy to switch between users, as you can see. So yeah, those are the screens we have right now. So let's go ahead and start a new instance of the hiring process. So I left prepared here a cure command, which will make a request to this URL, which is from our Quarkus application, and we will start a new instance for the hiring process with the input being the candidate information for that instance. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it. Okay, so it already started the process. If I go back now to the process instances screen, we can see here the process. If we want, we can abort it, but I won't do that right now. I'll go inside the process to take a look at its details. There are a lot of information here, so let's take a closer look. First, we have the process diagram, which represents the process that I showed you before on VS Code, but it also shows you the current status of that process, which node it's executing right now or waiting for to be executed in this case, because it's an user task. And we can also see here the timeline of the execution, which nodes have already been executed at which time. And right below here, we can take a look at the jobs that this process generated. As we saw before while I was explaining about this process, we have this job that will bypass this user task in a few seconds, as you can see here. So we'll take a look at that soon. We also have a node trigger that manually triggers a specific node that we can choose here in this dropdown if we want to. Here we have process variables, which in this case are the candidate information that I sent when I made the request to start the new instance. And on the left here, we have general details about this instance, like its state and its ID. Okay. So as I mentioned, the job has probably ran right now. So let's click here on the refresh button. Yeah, so as you can see here, the timeline and the status already updated. You can see here in the jobs panel that the job executed and the HR interview task was bypassed. So the current state right now is that the process is waiting for the IT interview task to be executed by the user JDO, which is assigned to the task in the process definition in the BPMN file. So let's go ahead and take a look just in the job screen. Here we can filter by executed jobs just to see that the job appears here as well if you want to. You can also take a look at more specific details if you want to. And then if we go to the tasks screen and switch to the user JDO, we'll be able to see the IT interview task ready to be executed. And also if I change the filter to also show completed and aborted tasks and apply, we can see the HR interview was aborted after that job was executed before. So now let's go ahead and go inside the IT interview task. As you can see here, the input of this task is the candidate information that I provided, and this form is automatically generated based on the task schema that was defined also in the process. And the output of this task will be this Boolean, which defines if they use if the candidate was approved in the process or not. So let's go ahead and select the approved checkbox and complete the task. So now the task is completed. If I go back here to the tasking box, you can see it's a status updated to completed. If I go back to the process instance screen, there is nothing because I need to change the filter to also show completed business process and apply. And then you can see the status of the process is completed. If we take a quick look at the details, we can see this whole path was completed and reached the final node. In the timeline, you can see that as well. It was ended in a few seconds. So this demo is just to cover all the features that we made available in this extension. It's a pretty simple process, but we were able to see the jobs being executed, their status, the tasks, the ability to impersonate users when dealing with tasks. And this, I think it will improve a lot of developer experience, will make it quicker. You don't have to keep logging off and logging in to test different users. You don't need multiple consoles as in production to test instances, jobs, and tasks. And this will make it much quicker. So that's it.
So, Paulo, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I have a delay on my video, so please bear with me. So when I see that you are impersonating users there, where are you getting these users from?
Yeah, those users came from the application properties file that you defined in our application, in our project. I can show it here. Okay, so we have a lot of properties in this application, but the users come from here. So you can define the list of users here that appear in the dropdown. And for each user, you can define the security groups which they belong to.
Awesome, thank you. Nice demo,
Great.
by the way.
Thanks. Well, let me go back to the slides right now. Okay, so the demo is done. Now about the next steps that we have. Okay, so there are some features we're working right now that will be available in the next few weeks, as I mentioned before. And those are 3 that I brought that are very important for us to simplify even more this process of testing business process. The first one is the embedded in-memory data index, which will eliminate the necessity of running the data index outside of your application manually, and will provide all the necessary data to the extension seamlessly, so you don't need to do anything for that. And the second item is the process list and start. So the idea of this feature is to list in the extension in a new screen all the process definitions that we have available at runtime when the application is running. And for each definition, you are able to start a new instance of it by filling a form with the necessary inputs. And as you saw in the demo, what I did without this feature is the manual request with the curl command. And with this available, you'll be able to do everything using the UI of the extension. The third item is the custom task forms, which are also in progress and advanced state right now. This will make it possible for the developer to create custom forms for tasks, either using pure HTML or React or the React framework to create that form. And by placing that form in their project in a specific folder, they will be able to use that form instead of the automatically generated form that I showed on the demonstration. And this custom form will be able to be used not only in the extension, but in the management console and the task console in case of production environments as well. Here I put a quick peek of the branch that we are working on in this feature. You can see here the new form screen that lists all the custom forms that are inside the project. You can see here the name of the process and the name of the task of which this form belongs to, and also the type of the implementation. And if you go ahead and select one of those forms, you are able here on this screen to take a look at the source, and you can do any change you want in this editor and refresh it to show a real-time preview of that custom form. And this will make the work faster because you can make modifications here, see them right away, and when you're done, you can just copy the source code to your file in your project in the IDE you're using. So yeah, that's the quick peek I have for the forms. For this presentation, I will be making a blog post showing the step-by-step necessary to do the same demonstration that I just did, and it will be posted in a few days. And the second link, you are able to see all the Kogito examples that we have made. This example that I show is one of them, but there are several others in this repository for those who are interested in learning more about our new distributions of runtime and runtime tools.
Great, Paulo. We have one question here from Donato.
Yeah.
Can I debug the app, change on the fly the process variable content?
Can I changing on the fly the process variable content? Well,
because, for example, on your application there, if you can go to the management, to the dev UI console, you will see that you actually have the JSON in there and other data. So I think that he mentioned if you can actually change things directly here, just for debug purposes.
No, you can't add it here.
Not yet.
Not yet, at least. But you can easily start another process with a different data if you want to right now. But in the future, is a feature that we definitely can add to this distribution for sure.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's the questions that we have. And well, today, as you mentioned, Paulo, is the first part of these presentations of the runtime tools for productivity, boost the developers' productivity. So thank you very much for presenting here. And with that being said, thank you very much for you attending today. And I invite you to subscribe and like, so it helps us on the algorithm. And thank you very much for coming. And thank you, Karina.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.